Welcome back, listeners and watchers or viewers out there on YouTube. It's Blue Grit Podcast. Tyler Owen,
Clint McNear.
We have got a pretty cool guest on today. Y'all's association is it Border Patrol? So I mean, it's the national.
Yeah, it's National Border Patrol Council.
Okay, and you are the vice president.
I'm the vice president of the council. Yes.
Chris
Cabrera.
National vice president.
National vice president. Man, there's so much stuff going on. That's why we wanted to have you on. There's so many stories and the real shit that really is going on at the border is why we wanted to have you on and not get the what'd you say there, the watered down version of kind of what is going on.
Everybody has their version that fits their agenda, but we don't ever get to hear the real story. And what is affecting y'all is affecting our members too. I mean,
absolutely,
it's affecting our members that are DPS and game wardens and all of our locals and sheriffs, and we got members all over down there. And what you guys are facing, same thing our members are facing. But we don't ever get to hear from the horse's mouth, so to speak, what you guys are up against.
Yeah, with your members, we appreciate you guys coming down. As a Border Patrol agent, it's kind of sad that other agencies, whether it be federal, state, or local, or National Guard, has to come in and help me do my job. That's kind of a sore point on my end. But as a Texan, it's good that the state of Texas is finally stepping up and doing what the federal government won't do. But when you guys come down and help out in our area, it leaves your areas unsecured.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah. And you grew up give us a backstory of kind of where you grew up at, where you started your law enforcement. I think you're prior military, and just kind of walk into kind of how you started with the Border Patrol. Yeah,
I grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in the Colony, a little bitty town there. I ended up graduating out of the Austin area. I bounced around a couple different schools. I joined the military. Did 4 years in Hawaii, not a bad place to do do some military time. No. And I got out, ended up in San Antonio, and I'd never heard of the Border Patrol. Growing up in the Dallas area, it's not a very,
it's not a big,
wasn't a huge organization at the time. And I ran into a recruiter at a mall, and he asked me if I wanted to join the Border Patrol. And I asked him, I said, "What's that?" And he said, "Well, it's like playing hide and go seek, but you're always it." And I'm like, well, shit, I can get behind that. I didn't know what the pay was. I just, I knew what I was doing. It wasn't going to sustain me for the rest of my life. So I figured, give it a shot. Went to the academy. Wasn't that hard. And I ended up in McAllen, which thankfully McAllen is probably one of the better border communities, along the southwest border. So I think I lucked out there, and I've been there 21 years.
Wow. So you had served in the United States Army, did some pretty cool stuff, jump school, did some pretty legit stuff serving the country before you got there, and then went through Glencoe for Border Patrol Academy. Do you think having some prior military helped? You said the academy wasn't too difficult. Do you think prior military kind of helped you transition over to like a paramilitary organization? Do you think that helped you back then?
I think so. And I think even with any law enforcement, you're going to have guys that were military than non-military, and usually military guys kind of flock to each other. Not that they're completely segregated from each other, but they tend to find each other and hang out. And I know when I got to the Border Patrol Academy, they told me that our work days were 8 to 5. And after 5, they couldn't mess with you. And I was like, okay. And then we had our own rooms. It was kind of like a crappy Motel 6. We had our own room, but we had to share a bathroom with one other person.
Okay.
And they said, well, the cleaning staff doesn't like it when you take your blankets to the beach. And I that was a lot for me to comprehend. I was like, one, cleaning staff. I thought we were cleaning staff. Yeah. And then beach. I didn't know there was a beach here and we could go there, and then the cleaning staff would clean up after us. So, it was... I didn't, the running, anything physical, I didn't have a problem with it. There's a lot of classwork involved, all the laws and all that crap you got to learn, but, you just pay attention, it comes to you.
How long is Border Patrol Academy?
At the time, I think it was 5.5 months.
Wow.
Same as ours, I guess.
Yeah, all on site there. You live on site.
And then they shortened it down to a couple years back to 3 months. That didn't work out, so they went back to 5.5.
And then you catch a duty. Is it like the military? Do you get like a dream list kind of where you want to go, or do you just get told you shall go here? And
No, you before you accept the job, they give you your spot.
You know where
Okay.
you're going before you
Yeah.
even get out of the academy.
So they'll give you, you get a dream list of what you want. They don't necessarily offer it to you, but they'll offer you 3, and then you can pick one of those 3. And if you don't, then just throw your name back in the hat and pull it later. So.
And then when you get out and get your duty assignment, is there like an FTO phase where
Yeah.
you're kind of riding with a seasoned Border Patrol agent?
Yeah, you have an FTO, which is your class that they came out, and you'll have 2 or 3 journeyman agent, and they'll take in groups of 2 or 3 for a few months. And then after that, then you're assigned different journeyman agents for a pay period. And then after that, you get out there by yourself.
So let's say that I've graduated the academy. I've been through the training process. Kind of walk us through, because some of the listeners and viewers may not understand. We're beat cops, and so when we start, we have briefings, and then we typically go out and hit our squadron or our section, and then we answer calls for service. So what's a daily life of a United States Border Patrol agent, whether it be at the border, whether it be in Montana, whatever, but kind of explain that process and how that works.
Hey, I'll go with my station, for example. You come in, you do your briefing, get all your gear. Now we got into that whole body camera mess, and that's just a pain in the butt.
And how many typically are on your shift there in McAllen?
Mine about 45.
Okay.
But we're the largest station in the country.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we get our areas. You have different zones, and then you get your certain area, and you go to that area. We have sensor hits anytime somebody activates a bug or a camera goes off or a helicopter's flying over and see something. They'll send you that area. They don't necessarily call you by name. They just say anybody in this area, and everybody just kind of flocks over there. And you just do whatever needs to be done, whether it's patrolling on foot, patrolling on vehicle, cutting for sign, whatever's out there. It could be that you have a group of, which is not uncommon, 75, 80 people walk up and turn themselves in. You start writing them up, getting the vans out there and getting them into the station.
And during y'all's briefing, I guess y'all have intelligence, and where does that intelligence come from? CIA, FBI? How does that without and if we're putting anything at risk with
I think that you're giving us too much credit with CIA and FBI. we have our homegrown intel, our Border Patrol intel, and then we have a lot that just comes from concerned citizens.
Yeah.
And then there's, known smuggler in this area has been popped a couple times, noticed in this area, and they put that information out, the license plates, and then we do what we call laying in. You just hide yourself in the brush and wait for somebody to walk by and jump out and scare the crap out of them.
So y'all have like an intelligence or a detective unit that kind of feeds y'all information. Y'all are the patrol troops, and so.
Yeah, but more often than not, even not taking anything away from those guys, the majority of our good intel comes from the guys on the same shift.
Yeah.
That they see it, they see what's going on, they recognize a trend, they pass it forward, and it develops over a couple of days, and you get something good out of it.
Not much is different with police work. Your boots on the ground are kind of where we get our information.
Getting organic intel and networking and relationships.
Yeah, if you pass it up, they have so much stuff they got to filter through. By the time it gets back down, it's old news. So, if these guys keep it in-house and on the same, or not necessarily in-house, if they start developing it in-house while it's going through the formal chains, then it can be worked on while the big wigs are deciding what needs to be done. By the time they come back with an answer, we've already got it apprehended. So,
Wow.
Are you one-man teams generally, or is it two-man squads, or and if that's something you guys don't share?
No, our station, we usually work one-man teams. So, and I kind of prefer it. I don't. The good thing is there's enough of us. If I'm working something, I can call the guy next door to me and he can help me out. But I like to be able to do my own thing. And, I guess when you're new, it's a little different. You're unfamiliar with the area. You don't know too much. You might be scared of the dark. You'd be surprised how many guys out there are scared of the dark. But, until you get your feet under you, it's probably good to have somebody with you. But I prefer to be alone.
What's the longest you've laid it? You call it laying in.
Yeah.
What's the longest you've ever laid in waiting to
I'd say probably about 8 hours, 7, 8 hours.
God.
You know,
Just concealed in the brush, waiting,
Yeah.
waiting on.
waiting on somebody to walk up. You know, and usually you're not going to give it that long unless you know something's coming. And if it's coming, you'll wait in there as long as you have to.
So is it true? And this is just, we're going to get personal just for a second, because I had a buddy of mine that I was on a Marshall's task force, and this guy was set up, and he did this 8-hour, 10-hour surveillance thing, and so he's sitting there in the brush, and this is in East Texas, and so he said all of a sudden he kept noticing all these skunks, and he said the skunk would go by, and he noticed that the skunks would immediately take a 90-degree turn, and it was the exact spot where he was peeing at. And so he started to realize, and he was like, wait a minute. And so he kind of rolls this way, and he pees, and he hits all four corners, and then makes a perimeter where he's sitting at, and the skunks wouldn't come inside his zone. So what is there anything ever crazy that's happened as you're sitting there watching these illegals, or whenever? I mean, I'm sure they probably walked over you, by you, and they peed on you. I mean, because I've heard crazy stories of Border Patrol agents.
I know there's this one rancher down there. He's got the best tangerines. I mean, and you would think Florida, but no, this guy has the best ones. And he was a really nice old guy. He passed away a couple years ago, and he would tell us, hey, if you come through, just grab what you need. Don't come with shopping bags, and just get what you want, and go on about your business. So I had a trainee with me, and I told him this, it was hot. I told him, get your jacket. So he gets his jacket, put him on, and we pack our pockets with tangerines, right? And we're sitting at the edge of the orange grove, and we're watching people walk up. And we catch them, and we sit them down, and give them some tangerines. And we have them on this telephone pole that are just sitting there. And after a while, we, are getting kind of bored. We've been there about 5 or 6 hours. And some of the other illegals were taking watch, and they would tell us when people were coming up. And so they were helping us catch their buddies. And we all just, had to get rid of our tangerine peels after at the end of it. But, yeah, they jumped
Crazy.
in, and they were helping us out.
Yeah, like a picnic. You had a legal picnic there that day.
Orange picnic.
Yeah, orange picnic.
I guess the ranchers really appreciate and support what you guys do, because you're helping their cause of trying to keep folks off their land or keep the problems. I guess most of the ranchers, landowners down there have a good relationship with you guys. And
yeah, my grandparents are from that area. My parents moved out, up to the Dallas area when I was young. Excuse me. And what my grandmother would tell me is down in that area, when she was little, they would sit out there and people would walk up the same roads they walk up now. And my great-grandmother would see them, and they would bring them into the yard and put them under some shade, give them something to eat, something to drink, and then send them on their way. Those same families, a lot of those same families still live in those houses. Obviously, not the same people, but, the same families. And my grandmother would tell me it's not the same caliber of people that are coming. These people aren't coming to work. And so those same families, when people are walking up, and walking over to these houses, they're shuttering the windows, they're laying on the floor and pretending like they're not home, because it's a different quality of people that are coming. They're not coming to work hard, they're coming to take. I mean, you don't have too many farm workers coming, with tattoos on their face. Yeah. It's just, they're not coming for that.
Right.
And that's what we deal with. We deal with a whole different group.
Man, that's a great segue. We had dinner with Chris last night, and the stories are crazy but scary.
Yeah.
How many countries just this past year? How many countries did you guys?
156. Yeah, I think we got better representation than the Olympics.
Yeah.
Wow. And for listeners to understand, in our non-law enforcement agencies, when you say 156, you guys interacted, captured, arrested, interviewed, whatever, in some form or fashion, coming across our border from Mexico, not just Hispanics from Mexico, not just Guatemalans, 156 different countries. And you mentioned a lot of Chinese, Russians.
Yeah. India, we call them the stands, Pakistan, Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, we just lump them all and call them stands. So we have all the stands. We've had Iraq, we've had Iran, we've had Kuwait, Hungary, Romania is real big right now. We've seen a lot of Romanians, a lot of Ukrainians, a lot of Russians right now.
And I would imagine the Russians and the Iranians are not coming here to pick melons.
Yeah, probably not. But, you think about it, the way this excuse me, the way this administration's running, it's a perfect time for anybody that's Russian or Ukrainian to come over, because they can say, well, if they're Ukrainian, well, hey, they're invading our country, and if they're Russian, well, they're going to force me to fight in a war I don't want to fight in, and we're going to roll over and say, okay, oh, come on in. And some of these dudes are big dudes. You know, it's not guys you want to mess with.
Yeah. Probably combat experience.
Yeah, we've seen. Yeah, we've had some Chechens come through, and I think it was last year or the year before we caught a guy from the IRA, the Irish Republican Army. So.
And that's the biggest thing I hope anybody that's watching this takes away from this. No matter what you see on whatever your flavor of news you watch is, don't be so naive to think that this whole thing is about a few Hispanic families that are wanting to come across to work in the fields or find a good job or make a new living or find a new, live the American dream. There's a whole lot more to it when you have 156 countries coming across than for some poor child from Guatemala that's just trying to make a better living.
Yeah, and you look at it, it used to be when I first started in the patrol, everything would die down. It would start up January 15th, somewhere after that. That's when everybody started coming back over.
Inauguration day.
Yeah, and they're gonna go pick the crops. They're gonna get to where they're going. So from January 15th to about middle of May, that was your busy season. And then after that, it just stopped. And then in the wintertime, come December, you'd see all these people headed back south into Mexico. And so those were your typical migrant workers. Now it just doesn't stop. It's year round. We're catching thousands of people in the middle of December. There's no crops to pick in December. So that tells you they're not coming for work. They're coming because the door's open. They know this gravy train is good. It's been going on since 2013, and we haven't done anything to close the loophole. If the federal government was a for-profit company, we would have been bankrupt years ago.
Without getting super political, different philosophies that is enforced by various administrations. Do the boots on the ground see any effectiveness? The last administration, right, wrong, or indifferent, their policy and how they enforced it versus the current administration and the policies that they do or do not enforce, without getting super political and being divisive with the viewers, listeners,
watchers. The majority of our agents were pro-Trump. I mean, it's just what it is. He was very pro-Border Patrol. We were very pro-Trump. But we did have some agents and some supervisors that couldn't stand Trump.
But because of his policies and what he allowed y'all to do?
No, because of his personality.
Okay.
And so they didn't like him. And, that's their own thing. But now with this new administration that's completely neutered us, they're the same people that didn't like him are kind of wishing he was back, because we were actually allowed for the first time in a long time to go out there and work
and do your job.
Yeah, and our agents they just want to work, and I tell people that law enforcement agents unions aren't like regular unions. We don't care where you put the damn coffee pot. We don't care if we have lumbar support in our chair. We just want to work.
Yes.
We're probably the only people asking for more work. Where other unions are saying, hey, I need a longer coffee break, law enforcement unions are saying, hey, just give me some good body armor and point me in a direction and let me go. So that's the only difference between us and other unions.
That's what's crazy, because federal, it really depends on what side of the aisle the sitting president is, of whether you guys are effective or not, or that you guys can be successful at your jobs. And that's what's wrong about it, I guess, is what I'm saying. Because you do have different mayors within, our members, or, certain political sheriffs that are Democrat, Republican, whatever. And that shouldn't be right. I think that we're policing and politics should not intertwine with each other. And that's sad that you guys are having to deal with that because of a certain political agenda.
I've said that for years. I think, the party system, the Democrat, Republican, it shouldn't apply to sheriffs.
Right.
It shouldn't apply to judges. Nope. Because the law is the law. Regardless of what your stance on abortion is, it doesn't matter. I mean, the law says what the law says. I don't care what your feelings are. Enforce the damn law.
Yeah, a sitting DA that we had on a couple episodes ago, he said that you can't apply red or blue philosophy to black or white.
I agree.
And that there's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just thought it's sad that you guys are having to go through that. But you also last night mentioned something about how children, this is affecting the children coming across the border and all that kind of stuff. If you want to kind of go into detail of different stories of like the 10-year-old that you had a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
It was 3 months she'd been walking, and then there's a clause with the 6-year-old.
Yeah, when the prior administration had enacted the Remain in Mexico policy, everybody, the whole crew, everybody was going back. Whether you were 3 months old, 10 months old with a parent, or 75 years old. When the new administration came in, they said, hey, no more Remain in Mexico, everybody's allowed to come. And then a couple of days later, they reversed and said, hey, we got to go back to Remain in Mexico. Mexico said, hey, you know what? We're Mexico. You're not remaining here without our say-so. We're not taking anybody under the age of 6. So that kind of threw a monkey wrench into the system. Not necessarily for us. I mean, we're used to it, but for the families. So in a sense, what happened is if you had a child under 6 in your group at any part of it, then you weren't getting sent back to Mexico. But if your youngest was 7, then you were getting sent back. So what would happen is the parents would get smuggled into the country alone, and then they would send for the kid. So now you're having a bunch of 7-year-old girls coming over in care of a smuggler by themselves. Who knows what can happen to them? Who knows what does happen to them? When they get here, when we send them back to the parents, and the parent gets status off the kid. So in a sense, this parent is using this child. Now, I can't leave my kid in the Walmart parking lot with the car on for 5 minutes or I'm going to jail. But you're going to put this kid on top of a bus for 3 countries and then on top of a train for 3 countries and get him back at the end of the day? That's just not right.
In the hands of a smuggler who certainly doesn't have their best interest.
Yeah.
And I've found, literally 2-year-old kids in the brush by themselves. Not in the brush with other people that they don't know, like by themselves. 2 years old, just out there in the woods by themselves. Because let's face it, these people are moving, and if you can't keep up, they leave you behind.
Wow. So how do you, like right now when we'll get into the horse reins incident in a minute, but how do you guys and how do you as a leader in the organization and an association leader, how do you keep your crew motivated? Hey, let's keep going out there and fighting the fight. We're swimming upstream of Niagara Falls, but
yeah,
let's keep fighting the fight. And how do you as a leader and how do you as association leader, how do you keep your troops moving forward?
Everybody's a little bit different, but you just got to let them know that eventually the shit sandwich is going to go away at some point. But we all got to take a bite of it. We keep pushing on, keep driving on. And at some point, it's going to change. We don't know if that's going to be weeks, months, or years, but at some point, it will change. Luckily, we've had a lot of congressional interest in the Border Patrol, so we're trying to strike the iron while it's hot. Hopefully, we'll get something done. But, yeah, that's the hard part is, you can't tell guys to put blinders on and just not do their job because, well, some will, but most won't. We're just not built that way. But you just got to keep driving on,
Policy-wise, you used an awesome analogy last night.
Oh, with the water thing.
Yeah.
A lot of my analogies are plumbing related. I don't
Yeah,
know
no,
why.
man, I like that.
Yeah.
If you don't mind sharing.
With this fixing this border issue, a lot of people say that, we need comprehensive immigration reform. And, to agree, yeah, we do. But you can't, that can't be first. First, you have to seal the border. You have to stop the flow. In a sense, if your sink was overflowing, are you going to mop first or are you going to turn off the water supply? And what they're trying to do now is they're trying to mop, just like they did in the 80s when Reagan did amnesty. Well, they still haven't shut off the supply, so you mopped, but we still got water on the floor.
All you're going to do is keep mopping.
Yeah, so you might as well shut off the supply, fix the problem, and then open it back up once you've cleaned everything up.
Man, I'm so glad you shared that. That's important for people to hear.
Well,
When you said that last night, I'm like, holy hell, man, that's what a simple concept that apparently everybody wants to make so complicated.
Yeah, I got another one, and like I said, it's kind of plumbing related. I don't know why.
Why is that?
I have no idea.
When
Probably
the toilet
'cause-
backs up.
yeah, probably because I end up having to do that crap at the house. But it's like with this Title 42, they want to get rid of it, right? And you know, anybody's had a sink stopped up, you have that little P trap under there. You take that thing out, and what happens? The water comes out.
Yep.
So you got to put a freaking bucket under there, and if you don't, you're gonna have a mess. Well, what this new administration did is, hey, you know, it's your game, it's your rules. They can do whatever they want. They can set whatever policies they want. That's part of winning. You know, the winner gets to choose. But if you take that thing out, you got to have something to catch that water. Mm-hmm. Well, they pulled that thing out, and they didn't have a policy in place to catch that water, and that's what we're dealing with now.
Wow.
You know, and that's the thing is, if you win, hey, it's your rules, buddy.
Right.
Knock yourself out. But if you screw up,
own it.
People are going to say something. And, I mean, that's part of being the top dog. There's always somebody pulling on your coattail to bring you down. So
Yeah, and the problem is it's easy to sit at a distance and make policy and without a concept of how bad it is affecting you guys on the ground every day, chasing your tails, trying to because we'll segue into it right now. You and I talked offline. We're getting beat up by our members because there is such a dire recruiting crisis and can't hire anybody, and everybody our age is getting out of it. You know, you and I are almost old heads, so everybody's leaving, and you guys are in the same predicament.
yeah.
So in addition to chasing your tails because of policies, you're short-staffed. What's your current crisis looking like staffing?
Yeah, I think there's a congressional mandate that we're supposed to be at a certain level. I think it's like 20,000 or 25 or somewhere 20.5. I think we're down in the 18s, you know, 18s, mid 18s. We're nowhere near where we need to be, and we're losing for every one we hire. We're losing 3 or 4.
Wow.
Either going to a different job. Some getting. I know one guy left to go be a manager at HEB.
Wow.
You know, I know guys that have left to go be a high school softball coach. I've had a couple friends that join the patrol and then leave and go back to their old job at PD. You know.
Let me ask you this, because the current administration, a lot of the mental health that's going on, and I think I saw a news article last week that just like it's affecting your local law enforcement, it's also affecting you guys tremendously. I mean, that's a big issue. Because you guys are suffering from trying to enforce the new border, or excuse me, the new administration's policies. What has the new administration done or pushed to you guys as resources for mental health?
They've done absolute jack shit.
Really?
You know,
Y'all have had some losses recently.
Yeah,
haven't you?
we've since the beginning. Well, last year we lost 14.
Killed in the line of duty or suicide?
No, that's all suicides.
Yeah, suicide.
14 last year.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
now-
huge with the border.
Just
patrol.
in Border Patrol.
And you look at NYPD, which is almost double our numbers. They had 5. You know, so we
y'all
lost.
had 4 close together, I think, in December or something.
We had
didn't you?
2 from my area. And you look at that now. Don't get me wrong. The agency is trying to do something. They're trying to, but it's bogged down with too much paperwork.
Yeah.
And until they get serious, they cut out this paperwork. It's never going to fix itself. I had an agent coming to me years ago, female, and she was suicidal. So we talked to the boss and say, hey, she's suicidal. Okay, we're going to pull her gun. And rightfully so. I get that. I don't necessarily understand it because she probably has another one at home. But okay, pull the gun, you know, get her some help. And she was going through the help. And then they said, okay, by the way, we're going to give her a fitness for duty. She's not fit to be a Border Patrol agent. So wait a minute. You have somebody that you have money problems, problems with your spouse, and problems with your job. Those are your top 3 reasons for committing suicide. And now you put her on rubber guns, and now she has money. The spouse problem was probably the other reason. Now you're going to take her job. Now she's really suicidal.
Yeah.
And so I called the chief, and I said, look, if you don't think for 1 second that the next agent that commits suicide, that I won't go to the widow and tell him the reason he didn't come for help is because you would have fucking fired him, you're mistaken. So they backed off, and she kept her job.
Which is no motivation for anybody to come forward.
Yeah.
Because if I come forward and say I'm struggling, I come forward and say, hey, I may be drinking, you're gone.
Yeah.
Well, why would I come forward then?
Yeah. You know, and they need to make it that, first off, when an agent commits suicide, which is terrible, they should be given the same honors as an agent who was killed in the line of duty. We had an agent that was killed in the line of duty, an agent committed suicide within 2 weeks of each other. One of them got full honors, the other one got nothing. And how do you think his family felt? So what, he wasn't important because he killed himself? That's not right.
Yeah.
And on
top of that, the mental health that they're going through has every bit to do with the job he's doing.
Exactly. And they need to make it so these people will come for, like with the military. The military was good on fixing you.
Yep.
If there was something wrong with you, they'd fix you. They did a lot of dumb shit. But there was a reason behind everything they did.
Well, they didn't treat it. If you come forward with and say, "Hey, man, I got PTS," they didn't treat it like terminal cancer. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're done. You're over. Yeah. Your career is immediate. You're out. You're done.
Yeah.
And I talk about mental health a lot, and I always say the military is not light years ahead of most things. They're usually behind. But in the mental health arena, they're light years ahead of law enforcement as far as actually trying to truly care and address it. Because on the PD side too, just like you guys, with a few exceptions, Dallas PD, their chief, Eddie Garcia, is super supportive. The agency I retired from at Garland, if you come forward with a problem, they're going to commit to help you. But we get legal calls every day. Hey, I came forward and told them I'm struggling and I just got fired.
Yeah. And the thing with the odd part of the patrol is, why don't we reach out to the military and say, hey, you got this program going. Can we send some people in there to observe it, to figure it out, to take it, to adopt it as our own? Instead, they want to reinvent the wheel, make it a triangle, and tell you it's freaking better.
Make it theirs.
Yeah. And you know what? There's the military's been doing a lot of things for a long time, and some of it they got right. Take advantage of it. The framework's already there. Take advantage of it.
Dallas Chief Eddie Garcia started OWL, Officer Wellness Liaison Program, I believe. You come forward and tell them you got a problem, they're going to fix it. Had an officer come forward recently, had some crisis going on and was drinking too much. They sent him to rehab for 30 days. He came back and went right back to his spot, right where he was, hit the street again. They didn't treat him like, he suddenly is a pariah and is, going to kill everybody or do anything crazy. You had a problem, we fixed the problem, get back to work, keep doing a good job.
I think it was Officer Gordon. Shout out to him. That was a phenomenal episode, ATO podcast.
Yeah, I'm actually going to reach out and look into that right there.
Yeah.
I'll get you a link up when we get offline, man. Yeah. They're doing Joe King, the Officer Wellness Program, Chief Garcia, shout out for him for having the intestinal fortitude.
Yep.
He sent a tweet. The officer made a paracord band while he was in rehab getting cleaned up, and gave it to the chief, and the chief didn't hide from it. He took a picture and tweeted it, supporting my troops that are getting well and taking care of themselves. And I'm like, man, you got some chiefs hiding from it, and then you got one tweeting that he stands with his folks.
Yeah.
It's awesome, man.
And I don't think the average person realizes the stuff we see out there.
Yeah.
The other ones that are kind of the unsung heroes are not the firemen, but like the EMS guys, man, those guys see some stuff, man.
Yep.
And they don't get any recognition for it. And in the military, you have 18 months crash course and all PTS you can handle, right? Everything in 18 months. In law enforcement, you have 20 years, but you get a whole lot more. It maybe not as compressed, but you get a whole lot more, and it just doesn't seem to be that big of an issue that nobody really is taking
And you do notice. Some paramedic EMT work too?
Yeah, I picked up a spot as an EMT a few years back. I was out there working the field one day, and I picked up my Subway sandwich, and I was sitting there, grab a bite in the floodway.
Right there on the border, the Subway on the border. Right there by the river.
Yeah. And so I hear an agent call out that he has a group of 101 people, and he's writing them up. And I'm like, shit, I'll go help him out, but knock the sandwich out real quick. And then I hear him say, well, I got a 2-year-old, he's unresponsive. So shit, leave the sandwich, go out there. I get there, and I don't know what to do, right? So I get the kid, and I give him a little sternum rub, which you're probably not supposed to do anymore, and he's just there. He's just like a big lump, and the agent's freaking out, and he's like, "What do we do?" And I said, "Well, look, there's 100 people here. We got to do something." And so I asked somebody if they have any ice, and one of the contractors comes over and she's trying to scoop water out of a thermos with a glove, and I just grab it and start dumping it on the kid and giving him little chest compressions, and then his eye flutters, and then he starts coughing. One of my classmates from the academy is an EMT, so he starts coming over that way, and we get the kid revived, right?
Wow,
he
no kidding, man.
Yeah. He had sepsis. He had 104.5 degree temperature. He had a brain hemorrhage from the mom shaking him. He had the flu. He had pneumonia, and he had 3 brown recluse spider bites. One on his face and one on his neck. And so he was in pretty bad shape. And I guess, the mom, he crying, so she shook him or whatever. And he had a brain hemorrhage, but he survived, luckily he survived.
Because of y'all's intervention.
Yeah, it got me sick. I got pneumonia pretty bad. But,
That's the story folks don't hear, though, man. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And so after that, I said, I need to take an EMT course because, whether it's at work or at home, I got to know this shit. So, having my time in service, the Border Patrol offers EMT courses, and I thought, well, I'm not on the line every day, so it'd be kind of shitty if I just stepped in and took somebody's spot. So I have a friend down there that he's a fire marshal, but he has his own EMT company, the training company, so I just took his class, and he got me certified, and then I gave it to the patrol, and they put me on the unit, so. But, yeah, it was kind of scary, to have a little kid do that.
And that's the stories folks need to hear, not
the lasso and the
not long reins on a horse.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is this is a lot of people never hear this, is most of our newer guys, or not most of them, but a good chunk of them are white guys. We're getting a lot more white guys coming into patrol. Before it was mainly Hispanics, and quite a few of these guys have medical knowledge, and they're the nicest to the people they encounter by far. The white guys that don't speak the language well from northern part of the United States, they treat the illegals the best. The ones that are the meanest are the ones that are from Mexico, born in Mexico, and naturalized. But yet the ones that get a bad rap are the white guys because they're Nazis. People are calling them. And these guys are doing more than the average agent to help people, putting themselves at risk by giving a kid mouth to mouth where he shouldn't be because there's no barrier.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that get shit on by the average person in the street as being, a Nazi or a white supremacist when they're doing their best to help these people. And that to me is a shame.
Yep.
So my wife is half Hispanic. How is it working in your personal life when you worked for Border Patrol for 21 years? How many relationships has it affected with knowing in that Hispanic culture? Because let's be honest, Border Patrol is not well liked in some aspects with that culture. And how have you dealt with that on a personal level of doing that? And how have you got shunned from different events? And
I've had some people make comments. I've been driving. I had a 3-year-old kid shoot me the finger one time at a Walmart, and I was like,
love you too.
Yeah, I had one of my wife's nieces told me. She said, "Well, how can you do this job to your people?" And I said, "Well, easy. It's you do it with compassion. You treat everybody like they're your grandmother until they give you reason not to, and you treat them right. You treat them good. You treat them humanely, and you move on. So." And I thought about it, if I wasn't here doing this job,
that's right.
Who would the guy replacing me do it humanely?
That's right.
And if he wouldn't do it humanely, then maybe I got to stick around.
If not me, then who?
Yeah. So
what's that old country song? Who's going to fill his shoes? Is that George Jones?
George Jones.
I think it is
George Jones.
Yeah.
So
the possum.
The possum.
There you go. He's from Texas, Jacksonville.
I don't know, but me and my wife been watching that George and Tammy Wynette Showtime series. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it.
Phenomenal.
He's from Texas.
Yeah.
But we can't get off here without addressing the elephant in the room with the horse whipping
Yeah.
story. And I grew up around horses, and I know what long reins look like, and I understand horsemanship. But for our viewers and listeners, that whole story got perverted and used. Anybody with some common sense could look at a picture and tell what's going on. But would you mind sharing from the horse's mouth? Well, not horse's mouth.
No pun intended.
From what happened and why that deal got exploited, and if you don't mind, you don't have to give a name, but how are the folks involved in that doing today?
Yeah, the agents were using those reins to control the horse. That's how they do it. I guess they're one. I can't say a mistake. They didn't make a mistake at all, but they went in there and they probably should have had more backup going into something like that. So, not that it's
and sometimes what we're sometimes you play the hand you're dealt.
Yeah, and you go to war with the army you have, not the army you want. And so I would imagine in their eyes, hey, we're going to get out there and get this thing held down until we get reinforcements. Rightfully so. Hindsight's always 20/20. So I think what the agency ended up coming back with them was they used improper language. They said some bad words to the people and hurt their feelings.
So the administration swearing they were outraged and going to hold people accountable has boiled down to somebody said a bad word.
Yeah, and I've never seen agents come together like they did. I mean, that was like our 9/11, how the country pulled together after 9/11, that the Border Patrol pulled together after 9/11. All the agents came together and stood firm. When Mayorkas would come to different muster briefings, he'd get an earful. He doesn't even make muster briefings anymore. These guys just tear him up every chance they get. They get up, and I've had guys stand up and turn their back to him. I had one guy tell him that Mayorkas was wearing a Border Patrol jacket, and he told him, hey, when did you go to the academy? And he goes, I haven't been to the academy. He goes, but I'm head of the organization. He goes, well, you haven't been through my academy, so you need to take that jacket off because you haven't earned that badge. So, I mean, our guys, they're not backing down from this anymore. Those agents did their job. They did their job. Did they say a bad word? Yeah, but who doesn't?
Clint does to me all the time.
Yeah, but let's be honest. If the agency had done their job,
that's right,
then these guys wouldn't have had to do their job.
Well, and if the administration, had stood, but it's a whole separate topic.
The agent's still employed. They're doing okay today.
Yeah, they're doing good. They're employed. Our attorneys have stepped up and went in there, and our attorneys are really, really good. So I think those agents are going to come out of there all right. If it was me, I don't know if you could sue the government or Mayorkas or Biden or Harris or whoever personally for slandering you, but I think that'd be definitely something to look into. Especially with some of these media coming out and saying what they did without knowing the whole story.
Yep.
And when come to find out they knew the whole story, they just didn't want to report the whole story.
Yeah, and if you want to come out and speak uneducated about an issue, not understanding horses and reins and how you guys work, that's one thing. Mm-hmm. But when you come out that strongly against you guys, you can at least have the common courtesy to come back and say, hey, upon further review, there was a misunderstanding there, and we support our troops down there trying to take care of things on the border. Something other than nothing.
Yeah, if you make a mistake, you correct that mistake in the same form in which you made it. You don't apologize privately.
Yeah.
If I called you out publicly, then I will apologize publicly. And unfortunately, I've had to do that a few times, But, I'm a man of my word. And if I say something or do something to you in front of people, then I'm going to apologize in front of those same people.
So has there been any on-record or off-record backdoor apology for the outrage that hit national media and brought the spotlight unnecessarily on you guys?
No, not at all. And I've even had people tell him when he would go to those briefings that he owed all the Border Patrol agents, in particular those horse agents, an apology.
Yep. And
he just won't do it.
Wow.
And he's I hate to talk about the guy, but I'm going to. He's two-faced. He'll tell us one thing in private, and then publicly he'll go and slam us. And you know what? If you don't like me, you don't like me. I don't care if you don't like me. But don't lie to me about it. I had an old sergeant would tell me, look, unless I wake up next to you or you sign my checks, I don't give a shit what you think.
Yeah.
You know, so,
Yep.
you know, you don't like me, you don't like me. I don't care. But don't lie to me.
So to 21-year-old, 22-year-old young man or woman that's looking to serve their country, their state in some form or fashion, is looking at the Border Patrol, what would you tell them about a good roadmap, or good process, or a mindset to protect to get into serving their country and joining the U.S. Border Patrol?
You know, do your homework. Do your homework, what you want to do. Don't get me wrong. I love the Border Patrol. I'm one of those guys that still bleeds green. I mean, I love the job. It's like being a kid again. I just have better toys. But at the same time, being a little older, a lot older, a little wiser, do your homework. What's going to give you a better retirement? What's going to take care of you down the road? What's your best career opportunities? Are you going to stay in a certain job, or are you going to try and advance through different avenues, whether it's detective work, whether it's going to DEA or the FBI or, you know, Texas Ranger? And to be honest with you, as much as I love the patrol, like, you know, my oldest boy is looking to go in law enforcement, and I'm guiding him towards the stateside. You know, the stateside has a lot better retirement plan. But do your homework. Definitely do your homework. There's a ton of federal agencies out there, whether it's Border Patrol, ICE, Tennessee Valley, River Valley, whatever stuff. I mean, there's tons of them, and all of them have its pluses and all of them have their minuses. But just do your research, do your homework, and hell, if you need a hand, give me a call, and I'll help you fill out the damn paperwork.
Anything you want to say to the members or the state law enforcement guys that are helping out down there? I know that you made a comment earlier, and I thought it was, you know, kind of fascinating that you're embarrassed that the state has to step in and help out Border Patrol because of the administration. But the reality is, I think all of our members at the border, it's an honor to work with you guys because we see the struggles that you guys have. And I think some of the stateside guys, and I mean stateside by, you know, DPS, you know, the local level, sheriffs, deputies, and police, they see the struggles that you guys are dealing with the administration problems. And I'm not speaking for them, but I think that it's an honor to work with, you know, your organization and the Border Patrol agents that are working down there.
Well, if the administration doesn't care about our state and Texans, I think it's cool that, by God, Texans are going to go take care of Texans. That's what, in my small mind, that's what it boils down to, is if nobody else is going to take care of us, then there'll be a bunch of Texans that'll go down there and take care of Texans.
Yeah, and I, for one, and I know my coworkers, we appreciate people coming out and helping us. We really do, and I think the unsung heroes are the Texas game wardens, because some of those guys go out there with really nice boats, and some of them go out with John boats, but they get it done out there. I mean, you have DPS out there with those big Shamu-looking boats on the river, and then you have this game warden out there getting more done with less. We appreciate all of them coming down there, whether it's DPS, whether it's law enforcement from around the state, EMS, National Guard, whoever. We appreciate it. We may not say it because we're overwhelmed at times, but damn it, we thank you for coming out.
That's awesome, man.
Well, we appreciate you coming on, man. It's been an honor. I'm glad to know you. I'm glad that we started this relationship, this friendship, and this partnership. Hopefully we can get you on more. So
Chris drove up on his own time 4 or 5 hours up to do this. It was important to him. It's super important to us, but I can't thank you enough for doing that, man.
No, and I hope you guys have him back on. And once this Title 42 goes away, you guys can come down to the border, because it's going to be a show down there.
We'll be there.
It's going to be a shit show, but it's going to be a show.
can we bring popcorn?
Oh, you can bring popcorn, bring some chairs.
Body armor.
Yeah, body armor.
So, and if you guys come on down, I'll be happy to take you around.
Absolutely.
Episode 2 will be remote from there.
Yes, that'd be awesome. I'm down.
Let's do it.
All right, we're gonna fire off 3 questions. You want to get it kicked off, because I always screw up the second portion of the first question.
First one is best cop movie or best line from a cop movie.
Man, I got to go with Super Troopers.
That's a good one.
That one's been a few times on the show.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So he being Border Patrol, he may not give my answer, but I have faith, and I have faith in Chris. Go ahead.
Best patrol vehicle.
Well, you talking about 4-wheel drive patrol vehicle?
Well, in your arena, what's the best vehicle you've had for your to carry out your duty?
The old Blazers.
I bet those are nice.
Yeah, the
Chevy Blazer.
Yeah, not too old, but you know.
Right.
2-door, 4-wheel drive.
You know, I'd prefer a 2-door, but I think we're kind of stuck with the 4.
Yeah.
Well, I guess at the time now they were Tahoes now. You know,
I got you.
Yeah, because if you get 2-door, you don't have to transport. So that's always a plus.
Well, and I got an EMT ride now, so
true.
I don't have to transport, which is just perfect.
Oh, that's nice.
I tell them, I wish I could, but I don't have a cage.
Yeah.
You know, sorry.
Yep.
Best cop whiskey, and if you don't drink whiskey or don't drink alcohol, best drink. What gets you through? What's Chris Cabrera's drink?
You know, I got 2. It would either be a Macallan's 12 or 18 year, or a Johnny Walker Black.
Can't go wrong with that.
Well, man, again, we can't thank you enough for driving up. We've enjoyed it. You will damn sure see me and Clint again. Hopefully, episode 2 will be on the
Is that a
border.
threat or a promise?
That's it depends on how you ask. So, again, it's been a pleasure.
Honor.
You guys subscribe, and download the episodes, because the algorithm on our Buzzsprout stuff, we've got different platforms with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Prime, and when you download those episodes, it helps Clint keep a job. So I like him, I love him, and he needs to be employed. So if you hit that subscribe button, maybe we can keep Clint his job.
Keep Chris and all of our folks serving along the border.
Absolutely.
Prayers, keep them lifted up as they continue fighting for the safety and of communities, local communities and families and ranches. Actually, the national security of our country is at risk.
Yep.
So keep all those folks in your thoughts and prayers as they keep serving.
Yep. That's it, guys. It's a wrap. As always, God bless you, and may God bless Texas.